All right. Well, hey, let's go ahead and get started with our teaching time today. Welcome to our Broker Agent Mastermind, our BAM session. All right. Today's training, 7 layers of influence. In particular, I'm going to be referring to Robert Cialdini's book on influence. And he talks about the psychology of influence. He's a psychologist and an amazing writer. I would encourage everyone to get that book because he does such a great, probably one of the most influential books. I guess it makes sense to be an influential book now that I think about it. It's a book on influence, but one of the most influential books to me because he has such great principles. Now I'm going to do a quick overview today, and hopefully this will be helpful for you. But he basically has 7 levers of reciprocity, or 7 principles of reciprocity. So his first lever is the lever of reciprocity. The principle of reciprocity says that we must give back to those who have given to us. That's kind of wired into our brains from birth. When people give us something, we feel, oh, I should give them something, right? So we automatically sense that we should be giving back when people give to us. So um, if you feel like you owe someone something, you're more likely to give them what they're wanting or needing. Like if you owe somebody some type of thing. So when someone gives you something, it creates the sense in you that you owe them. They just gave you this thing, so you owe them something back. People who received candy samples as they were entering a store, they did research on this, they were 42% more likely to buy candy in the store. So candy samples turned out to be an important strategy. How many of you have been, walking through a mall and you're given samples and it makes you want to buy that? And you hate to, take the sample and keep walking because then you feel like, oh man, I don't want to look like a cheapskate. So you tend to want to be reciprocal with that. McDonald's did a campaign, and they had marketing researchers studying it. Um, Kids were coming into the playland area back in the days when those were everywhere. They found out that people would spend 20% more when they were given a balloon when they entered the store with their children. And interestingly, the parents, what they bought was not more kid stuff at the McDonald's. They bought other things like coffee or things that were for them. So what they learned was giving a gift to the child is actually just as effective as giving the gift to the parent. It's the parents perceive it as if they received the gift themselves, and so they were more likely to spend their money. How many of you been to Costco and you're walking up and down the aisles, and man, it can be like a frenzy. At the there would be like the chili dogs sample area or the apple pie sample area, and it's like throwing a chicken bone into a little pool with piranhas, right? People are coming and dashing and darting in front of you. I remember going to Costco one time, and the girl was giving out samples of peach cobbler, and she was giving out like a big, huge serving of peach cobbler. And it wasn't like the little samples. She was giving like a full plate, like 6 people to an order. And I was like, something is not right here. We were all, she was going through the pies and cobblers like crazy. And I'm pretty sure she didn't understand the assignment. You're supposed to give a little piece, not an entire thing. But I was glad to be at Costco on that day. But when you receive a sample, it makes you want to reciprocate, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've taken a sample and thought, well, yeah, I guess I'll get some of those. Didn't ever think about getting that when I entered the store, but I was given the sample and it pushed me over the edge. So it's a good example. So in your business, I encourage you to be the most giving person you can possibly be in your business. When you can possibly give to your clients, try to do that. If there's an opportunity for you to buy them a Starbucks coffee en route to showing homes or something like that, I encourage you to be the one to spend the $2 or $3 for the coffee. Each time you reach out and you're doing something where you're giving, it makes people feel committed to working with you and giving back. So be the most giving person you possibly can. And we've really made it a theme with Plum Tree to be the most ridiculously generous brokerage around. And we're seeing the more generous we become, the more people who are drawn to our brokerage. So think about that, the law or the lever of reciprocity. Now, the second lever that Cialdini mentions is liking or likeness or liking. So this principle says that people like to do business with people that they like. So you should try to be a likable person. Not a bad strategy. So if people like you, then they will tend to want to do business with you. People like people who like them. So build it into your interactions, just the way that you work with people to give authentic praise to others. Let them know that you like them. Let them know that you're impressed with them. And the key to it is it has to be authentic. Okay. Now, what happens a lot of times is someone will tell us something, and in our minds we're thinking, "Wow, that's pretty amazing. That's cool." And then they'll tell us something, and we think it, but it never really hits our lips. We don't actually say it out loud, but we're thinking, well, that's kind of a cool thing that person did, or wow, maybe you're going through a home and you walk through and they have a nice kitchen, and you're thinking, well, that's a nice kitchen, but you don't say it out loud. Okay, you need to train yourself to say what you're actually thinking. Those positive comments, say that out loud. Okay, because a lot of times we tend to not do that. So people like to do business with people they like. People like people who like them, and people like people who are like them. Okay, so that's commonality. So as you're getting to know people, make sure they understand and point out whenever possible ways and things that you have in common with them. Okay. The more things that you can find that you have in common with them, they'll be more likely to like you because they'll see that you are like them. So people like people who are like them. Okay. They did some research, these business researchers found that deals that are in the pipeline often fall apart through email communications. So they were studying all these big businesses, and they did an analysis of the deals that fell through. What happened with those? And a very high percentage of the deals that fell through, they discovered it fell through at the point in the process where everything was starting to be reduced to email. Okay. And what they figured out is email can be very transactional. And at the point where things become just email, it becomes less relational and more transactional. So people like to do business with people that they like, but if you make it too transactional, then that likeness thing goes away. So the key then is to build relationships and focus as much as you can on the relationship rather than doing everything through texting and email. Do whenever you possibly can, jump on the phone and work on building the relationship. Okay. So be careful also in this likeness type category. Be careful about controversial topics on social media, which might basically make an announcement to the world that you are unlike half of them. You're unlike half of the people who might otherwise want to do business with you. So be careful about the things that you're saying on social media and out publicly, that you're not announcing to people that they probably don't want to do business with you. Okay. So the third lever is social proof. Social proof, okay? People will make decisions often by looking around to see what decisions others around them have already made, okay? How many of you, as you're getting ready, maybe you're traveling through an area and you're looking for a restaurant, how many of you go to something like TripAdvisor or Yelp to make the decision on where you're going to eat for dinner, right? Like I use those all the time. I go to Google reviews all the time, TripAdvisor, Yelp. I'm always looking for reviews because I want to see what did everyone else have to say about this restaurant. Okay. Well, people do that with realtors as well. And the reason they do that, they want to see, am I the only person that's using this person or are there other people? They want to see the social proof first. Uh, there's a difference between persuasion and persuasion, as Robert Cialdini says. Uh, they want to know what their peers are doing. All right. So um, he gave an example in his book, and I do encourage you to get the book about the inventor of the shopping cart many decades ago. And this was around the time of the Depression. This fellow bought a grocery store that was um, going through bankruptcy. So he bought this grocery store. It had very little resources, and this guy was noticing as people, this was before shopping carts, people would go through the stores and they'd buy a few items, but they would limit the number of things that they would buy to whatever they could carry in their hands, right? Which is pretty much how I go through every grocery store anyway. I never get a cart, and by the end, I'm carrying all these things and dropping things on the ground. I really need to do the cart thing. But he noticed that they were limited in the number of things. So he got this idea. They built a cart and they put it on wheels, and they thought this is going to be amazing because people are going to be able to carry more things than just what's in their hands. But unfortunately, nobody used the carts. They thought, well, that's dumb. They had all these carts, and he thought, well, it must be a communication thing. So then they started really promoting, hey, use the cart. This is the greatest way. These are amazing. And they put signs everywhere, showed happy people using the carts, and everyone's like, nah, I'm not going to do it. So finally, he had to model the behavior. So he paid his own store employees to pretend like they were customers, pushing these carts, loading up their carts, pushing these carts around. And people are like, well, gosh, that's a good idea. I should use one of those carts. And then it caught on. And now you cannot go to a grocery store without having shopping carts. So, but it took that persuasion. They had to see that people were actually doing this. So there's always the fear of missing out. It's like when people know that there's this successful thing happening, they want to be a part of that. They don't want to, everyone else to be a part of it. They want to be a part of it also. So really work on things like online reviews, and that's why we at Plum Tree, every time one of our agents has a transaction, we'll send a text message to your clients following the closing. We'll send a text message that says, hey, thanks so much for allowing us to be a part of this uh, wonderful process of you buying a home. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think we did? And I tell you, almost every single time, it's either a 9 or a 10. The vast majority of them are 10. So you agents at Plum Tree are doing an amazing job. So when they tell us it's a 9 or a 10, then we say, wow, that's really amazing. Thank you so much. Would you mind clicking on this link and leaving a review for your agent and mention your agent by name? And that will mean the world for their business and help them. So when others are wondering if they should work with this agent, your review will pop up. So we do that for all of our agents, and we don't even charge for that. And that's a free service that we do for you to help you boost your business because we want people to see those reviews for social proof for your business. So another thing you can do is social media posts. showing others who are enjoying working with you. And you want to be careful about these. Make sure you don't become creepy with these. Uh, make sure that you do these in a way that's tasteful and you're not trying to exploit people, but you're just showing you're having a great time with your clients and that they're excited to work with you. And I would make that these are better than any award that you could ever win for your real estate sales. Showing real people who are excited to work with you is better than anything. Or maybe even have them do a video of what they liked about working with you. That would be amazing with those people who have the personality type where that would potentially work. So, okay, lever number four, authority. All right, authority. So, if you see that an authority recommends something, many times that's all you need, right? So there's people in our culture. Take Joe Rogan, for instance. He's got like the biggest podcast in the world. It's right up there if it's not the biggest still. But one of the things Joe Rogan has advertised these brain pills. I forget what they're called, but basically, take these pills helps his mental acuity to be there. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, if Joe Rogan takes these must be amazing. So you order them, and then suddenly you've got your own worldwide podcast just because of the pills. It's amazing. Well, maybe not, but you do. We tend to listen to these people, a lot of YouTubers, because they have some kind of authority. You see an athlete and they're drinking this drink every day. You think, well, it must be something because they have authority. So a lot of times, authority helps people. You see that authority and you think, well, that's all I need to know if that person believes that. So now, what they've discovered as they've studied this in the realm of influence is that there's a difference between being in authority and being an authority. Okay, not just having a title that doesn't just make you instantly an authority. Okay, so being an authority is much deeper than that. That's where, because you've spent time, you've done the work, and you've learned and you've studied, and you seriously know what you're talking about, that gives you the ability to be able to lead and influence others. There was a time early in my real estate career where I did not have authority as a realtor because I was new to the business, and so I would dress up. I would make sure I looked authoritative. So I would dress very sharp, wear ties, sometimes suits or a suit coat. I because I lacked the true authority, I had to at least look like I had some kind of credibility. So that's how the first years of my business, I would make sure I looked very sharp when I would go to an appointment. Over time, I began really learning the business. I got to the point where I really knew what I was talking about. And at that point, it was so clear when I would go to a listing appointment that I really knew what I was talking about. Or if I was meeting with clients, it was so clear that I knew what I was talking about. I could literally show up in shorts and flip-flops and they'd say, hey, I trust you. I'm doing whatever you tell me to do because I believe you. And now I don't recommend that you do that until you have true authority, all right? But you have to establish your credibility, and that takes time to learn and really make sure you know what you're talking about. Knowledge, you're gaining knowledge, trustworthiness, credibility as you grow in your business. One of the things that you can do to make a shortcut for having authority or perceived authority in the world of real estate is if you were to start creating videos of yourself talking about the real estate world. Okay. And I would say video is going to be a quality signal. Okay. It's going to signal to the world the quality of how you do business. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. So you have to be careful with video that you're not giving a quality signal that your quality sucks. You want to make sure that you're giving a quality signal that you actually know what you're talking about. Okay. So, what that tends to mean on video is that you need to prepare. So make sure you plan out your video before you turn the camera on. Make sure maybe even rehearse it, practice it. Make sure that you have good lighting. Make sure that you have good audio. Make sure you've thought through all those things that make video good. Now, if you can do those things and then you actually say something meaningful on the video, then you can actually begin to establish yourself as an authority through video, and it can be extremely powerful. But you can also be posting solid content. Maybe you don't have a lot of knowledge yet, but there's others who do. So start posting solid content on your social media that was written by other people or videos from other people. And when you're posting these things, your sphere of influence, they'll see these posts and they'll say, okay, I think that person has some authority because they really seem to know what they're talking about because of these posts. And then eventually you can be posting your own content, things that you have learned and things that you have studied. So, another thing that you can do is to add credentials to your resume to give you authority. Get certifications. I know we have a partnership with Rebus University. You can get 8 different certifications through Rebus University. You can get $10,000 worth of free classes through Rebus University, and that can add to your authority for building your business. Okay. Lever number 5, scarcity. Okay, scarcity is a great way to influence people. There's the fear of missing out. If people think there's a limited amount of something, they're afraid they're not going to be able to get that something. People are motivated to avoid loss. They're more motivated to avoid loss than to seek gain. So if they think they're losing an opportunity for this thing, then a lot of times that's very motivational for people. So researchers in California, they were doing a study, and they went around door to door, asking people, if they wanted to have. They said if we put solar panels on your home, you can actually gain $1 a day by the energy acquired by the solar energy. That's $1 every single day, and they hardly sold any by telling people that. But then they said, if you don't insulate your home, what you need to understand, you're losing $1 every day that you don't have this. And sales skyrocketed because of that. Because people they were interested in the product because they didn't want to lose. They saw the scarcity and they were afraid of that. He gives a funny story, which I think is very relevant to our world of real estate. His brother, Robert's brother in college, he would sell cars for side money, but not at a dealership, not at a car lot. He would buy a car and then clean it up, and then he would sell it for a profit. And the way he would do this is he would advertise it, and then he would get all these people calling, "Hey, I'd like to see the car." He would set up all of the showings for the same time, like Saturday at 1. Yeah, meet me at such and such place on Saturday at 1 o'clock. So he would have 3 or 4 or 5 people showing up to see the car at the same time. And all these people are walking around, and they knew there's 5 of us and there's one car. Somebody's not going to get the car. I want the car. And so the value of the car would go up greatly because there's, this perception of the scarcity of the car. Now, I've done something real similar to this. When I used to I used to do property management, and when I was leasing a property, I would have people call and say, "Hey, when can I tour the property?" And I'd say, "Meet me over there on Saturday at 1." And I would set up 4 or 5 people to meet me at the property on Saturday at 1 o'clock. And they'd all be going through and looking at each other like, "Oh my gosh, we might not get this. There's all these people interested in the property." And we could get it rented basically within an hour, because that's the way I would do the leasing showings. Now, another similar thing you can do would be to try a strategy like this, but with open houses. And what you want to do, though, what most agents do with open houses is they'll tell their clients, yep, I'll do an open house this Saturday at 2 o'clock or this Sunday at 2 o'clock. And then the agent shows up at the house, puts a open house sign out in the yard, sits there for 2 hours and reads a book or watches YouTube videos, and then locks up the house and leaves, and nobody comes to the open house. So that's what most agents do on an open house. One of the things I learned by the way they do open houses, often in Florida, that's the Midwest approach. Down in Florida, they promote the heck out of open houses. Rod, I see you on there being down in the Florida area. Have you noticed that in your market they promote the heck out of open houses? And a lot of times they literally will put 20 signs out for an open house.
They
What do
have a
they
lot of ethical bribes like refreshments and drive traffic there. And I've had
Yeah.
them even food, like I've even seen them have like a dessert truck there, and for people to draw people there to get traffic there. It's
Yeah.
it's it's a lot of fun.
It is, and I think so. They're training agents differently in the Florida type markets where they'll literally get dozens and dozens of people through. So there's this one house. There's dozens of people coming through the house. As an agent, that's an amazing flow of leads that you have available to you. So, and you're creating scarcity with that product, the house, and so that's a terrific way to market your listings. And then people react against losing the ability to choose. Okay, people like to have their choice, right? So if you can structure things that allow people so that they can choose, people react against the ability to choose. So like when an agent is considering coming to Plum Tree, I don't I don't put heavy pressure on them like, wow, you really need to join our brokerage. I give them the pitch and I think, and I tell them, hey, let's just see what happens and take a look at the broker agreement. We'll kind of see what happens. And if it makes sense, we'll just keep moving forward. I don't ever try to put heavy pressure because they want to be the one to choose. Okay. So, and that's an important part of sales is making sure you give them the autonomy. They're the ones making the choice. Okay, lever number six, commitment and consistency. Okay, so people prefer to act in a way that is consistent with their commitments. Okay, there's just a mental restrainer that restrains us from doing things that are inconsistent with our commitments. We're not perfect at it, but at least we try to be consistent with our commitments. So when people state something that they value or something that is important to them, then they will work to stay consistent with that, to be, or at least to be seen as consistent with what they've stated. Okay. So if someone's saying, hey, uh, we have this, we really want to stay, within this budget. And it's important to us to have family gatherings. So we want to make sure we have a really great backyard space. And so when you're bringing them through and you've heard these commitments that they've made and you show properties that fulfill those commitments and it's consistent with those commitments, that's a lot easier way for you to be able to help them complete the purchase than if it's something that's inconsistent. But the commitment must originate in the person voluntarily. So it has to be something that they truly feel. Now, the way you learn this is by asking lots of questions and listening. Make sure you're listening to your clients so you understand what's going on inside of them. What are these commitments that, maybe moral commitments or family commitments or educational commitments, work, job commitments, social commitments? What are the commitments? that this real estate purchase is going to fulfill. Okay. And then tap into people's commitments by showing how your services can help fulfill those commitments. So make sure you're aware of that. Okay. Lever seven is unity. And I like this one, unity. People prefer we over me. Okay. People prefer we over me. We automatically tend to divide ourselves into tribes or we groups. Just out of curiosity, are there any Pittsburgh Steeler fans out there? Raise your hand if you are a Pittsburgh Steeler fan. Yeah, I didn't think so. Yeah, I don't blame you. But have you ever been around a Pittsburgh Steeler fan? Like they have the most radical fan base of any sports team, I think. And it's always funny because if you see a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, they always refer to the team as we. Yeah, we did really great on Sunday. Oh man, we had two interceptions. Or it's always we. And I'm thinking, you. What do you mean we? You weren't out there. But they have such an identity with that team. When I describe the Cincinnati Bengals, I say, yeah, they did okay this weekend. Yeah, they won. It's not we. I don't have that type of an identity. Now, some of you might have that type of identity with the Bengals or the Browns. The Cleveland Browns are that way too. We have a bunch of Northeast Ohio agents. The fan base for the Browns is amazing. Love that. So people tend to divide themselves into tribes, and people see themselves as we groups. We is the shared me. So we is an extension of me. We're all doing this same thing together. We agree on something. So whenever we meet someone who is one of us, we tend to favor and trust them a little bit more, right? Like I went to a Bengals game one time when the Bengals were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, and my friend that went with me, he was a Pittsburgh Steeler fan, and I was a Bengal fan, right? So we're sitting there together. It was just kind of fun. But after the game, they won like in double overtime. They beat the Bengals, and as we're exiting the stadium, he's like carrying on conversations with all the other uh, Steeler fans. He didn't know who they were, but he trusted them at least for that conversation. We're all here together. We all did this, you know, but we have this instinct to do that. We tend to favor. So a lot of times, the way this transfers into our culture today, um, and I know I said don't say controversial things on social media. You have to be careful. But when you're having conversations with people, a lot of times you can tap into ways commonality that you have with people. And one of the common ways of doing that tends to be a political thing. So if you sense that there's a political likeness, sometimes that can work in your favor because Democrats or Republicans might say, "Oh yeah, me too. I believe that same way." And so there can be, uh, unbelievably, there can be trust about real estate because you have the same political view, or there can be trust over real estate because you have the same religious view. And you have to be very careful about how this getting into those conversations, but sometimes the things just kind of automatically happen. And now, there's another thing is we have agents who are from a foreign country, and they are killing it with business that comes from that foreign country to the US, because someone will come from the same country and they say, "Oh gosh, you're from our country. Wow, we've got this commonality." And so they automatically trust them because they know this agent has already had to navigate a similar process of being in our country. So that could be a fabulous thing. So what I would say is find your tribe. And this can be through a lot of different ways, but find people who are like you. I have certain areas of involvement. I love to get involved in church, and I love to get involved in sports, and I love to get involved in a lot of different things. I've been involved in boating and RV life and those things. So there's tribes around all of those different types of things. Find your tribe, find people who are like you, and they will tend to want to do business with you. Now, the best thing, not just finding your tribe, is better yet, create your tribe. So figure out ways to get people together. And like I've seen agents who have started moms play groups, but maybe the agent is a mom, and they'll get all the moms in a neighborhood or subdivision together once a week or once a month or twice a month, and they'll bring their kids, maybe go to a park, and they all get together, and they're building relationships while their kids are out there playing, and they have this commonality. But these agents who do this type of thing, they're building a tribe. They're building a tribe around something that's not even related to real estate, but you have to know that those people eventually are going to be buying and selling houses. And if you're a part of their tribe, then that's going to be very powerful. So that is the content of today's session. Well, hey, I'll let you guys go. Have a fantastic week. We'll be taking next week off, but have a fabulous week and go make some money.